Chapter 4 Training Day. The early morning sun bathed the forest in a soft golden light as Ash, still in Serena's body, stood awkwardly in the middle of a clearing, trying to emulate Serena's usual graceful posture. Serena, in Ash's body, stood beside him, watching with a mix of amusement and frustration as Ash fumbled with his attempts to act like her. "Okay, Ash," Serena said, adjusting Ash's cap on her head. "The first thing you need to do is stop slouching. You need to stand tall and confident, but also delicate. You're, me now? You can't just walk around like you're about to charge into a battle." Ash rolled his eyes, but tried to straighten up. His back was stiff. The unfamiliar weight of Serena's long hair felt like it was constantly in his way. He grumbled as he brushed it off his shoulder for what felt like the 100th time that morning. "Why do you always keep your hair down?" Ash asked, trying to sound casual, though the question was born from genuine frustration. "It's always getting in the way." Serena smiled, amused by his discomfort. "You could tie it up, but I usually leave it down for showcases. It's part of the look, you know. You'll get used to it. Besides, it's not just about the hair. You need to move with purpose, but also with grace." "Grace, grace," Ash muttered under his breath, clearly unconvinced. He lifted his arms and tried to move in a way that he thought was graceful, but it looked more like he was trying to balance on a tightrope. Serena stifled a giggle. "Okay, let's start with some basics." She stepped forward and took one of Ash's hands, her own hand, technically, and guided him into a more relaxed stance. "Your movements need to flow, Ash. It's not about being stiff or trying too hard. It's about feeling comfortable in your body and letting that confidence show." Ash nodded, though he still looked unsure. "Okay, got it. So just be comfortable." He gave a half-hearted attempt at relaxing, but his movements were still too rigid. Serena sighed, shaking her head. "No, you're overthinking it. Watch how I move when I'm me and try to copy that." Ash watched as Serena, inside his body, took a few steps, her movements smooth and confident. It was strange seeing himself act so differently, but it gave him a clearer idea of what she meant. He took a deep breath and tried again, this time focusing on loosening his body and moving more naturally. "That's better," Serena said, nodding approvingly. "But now you need to work on the details. How you walk, how you carry yourself, even how you sit." Ash's expression turned to one of dread. "Oh man, sitting is the worst part." Serena raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean?" Ash's face flushed slightly as he glanced down at the short dress Serena had been wearing when they swapped bodies. "Let's just say, I've learned how important it is to, sit properly in a dress." Serena laughed, the sound strange coming from Ash's deeper voice. "Yeah, there's definitely a technique to it. Here, let me show you." She demonstrated how to sit gracefully, while ensuring that the dress covered everything it needed to. Ash watched carefully, mentally noting every movement. When it was his turn to try, he sat down awkwardly, tugging at the hem of the dress, trying to avoid exposing too much. "Not bad," Serena said, giving him a small smile. "But you're still too tense. You need to relax into it." "Relax? Relax?" Ash groaned, sitting back and crossing his arms, still a bit stiffly. "This is harder than I thought. I thought it would be simple, but there's so much to remember." Serena nodded, her expression softening. "It's not just about looking good, Ash. In showcases, it's about showmanship and confidence. How you present yourself is just as important as how well your Pokémon perform. You have to make the audience believe in you." Ash's eyes widened slightly. He had never really thought about it that way. To him, battling was all about strength and strategy, but what Serena did was different. It wasn't just about winning, it was about connecting with an audience, making them feel something. That makes sense, Ash said quietly, his usual brashness replaced with a rare moment of reflection. I guess I never really thought about how difficult it is to perform like that. Serena smiled softly. Well, you're learning now. And that's what today is all about. She walked over to where Breakson was waiting patiently by the edge of the clearing. Now, let's move on to something a little more challenging. You're going to have to perform in a showcase soon, and that means you'll be working with Breakson. You need to learn how to choreograph a routine. Ash's eyes widened in panic. Wait, I have to come up with a routine. Serena chuckled. Don't worry, I'll help you. Breakson and I already have a few routines we've worked on. I'll walk you through one. We'll practice it together. Ash sighed, but nodded. He could do this. He had to. For Serena's sake. Serena stepped forward and took the lead, demonstrating a series of movements and gestures that were part of her routine with Breakson. She moved with such natural elegance. Ash found himself mesmerized by how effortlessly she commanded attention. Even though she was in his body, she still exuded that same grace and poise that had always defined her performances. Okay, now you try, Serena said, stepping back. Ash took a deep breath and followed her lead, trying his best to mimic her movements. He fumbled at first, his steps too heavy, his gestures too awkward. But with Serena's guidance, he slowly started to improve. His movements became smoother, more fluid, and he began to understand the rhythm of the routine. As they continued practicing, Ash found himself getting more comfortable in Serena's body. He was still awkward at times, but he was learning to move with more grace, and he was starting to appreciate just how much skill it took to be a Pokemon performer. This is harder than I thought, he admitted to himself. Serena makes it look so easy, but there's so much more to it than just looking pretty. It's about confidence, timing, and making sure everything flows perfectly. By the time they finished their practice session, Ash was exhausted. He flopped down on the grass, wiping sweat from his brow. Wow, that was intense. I didn't think performing could be so tiring. Serena grinned, sitting down beside him, this time with much more ease and confidence in her new body. See, it's not as easy as it looks. Ash nodded, a newfound respect for Serena growing in his chest. I guess I never realized how much work you put into this. I mean, I've seen you perform before, but actually doing it, it's a whole different story. Serena smiled, touched by his words. Thanks, Ash. That means a lot. They sat in silence for a few moments, catching their breath. The sun was high in the sky now, casting dappled light through the trees. Pikachu and Braxton were playing nearby, seemingly unaware of the gravity of the situation their trainers were in. After a while, Serena stood up and stretched. All right, I think we've worked on your performance skills enough for one day. Now it's my turn. Ash looked up at her, confused. Your turn? Serena nodded, a determined look in her eyes. You've been training to act like me, but if we're going to keep this up, I need to learn how to battle like you. Ash grinned, standing up with renewed energy. Now we're talking. They spent the next few hours training together, this time focusing on battling. Ash guided Serena through several mock battles, teaching her how to think on her feet and react quickly to different situations. He showed her how to strategize, how to anticipate her opponent's moves, and how to use the strengths of her Pokemon to her advantage. At first, Serena struggled. She was used to showcases where precision and choreography were key. But battling was different. It was fast, unpredictable, and required a different kind of thinking. She found herself hesitating, unsure of what to do in the heat of the moment. Don't overthink it, Ash said, watching as Serena hesitated during a mock battle against Pikachu. You have to trust your instincts and go with your gut. Sometimes you don't have time to plan everything out. You just have to act. Serena nodded, taking his advice to heart. She tried again, this time focusing less on planning and more on reacting. And slowly, she started to improve. Her movements became quicker, her decisions more decisive. Maybe I can do this, she thought, feeling a surge of confidence. Maybe battling isn't so different from performing after all. It's just a different kind of stage. By the end of their training session, Serena was feeling more confident than she ever had in a battle. She wasn't as experienced as Ash, but she was learning. And for the first time, she believed she could handle it. Ash watched her with a proud smile. "You're doing great, Serena. You're starting to think like a real trainer." Serena beamed, feeling a warmth spread through her chest. "Thanks, Ash. I couldn't have done it without you." They stood there for a moment, both feeling a deep sense of accomplishment. Despite the strangeness of their situation, they were starting to understand each other in ways they never had before. Ash had gained a newfound appreciation for the art of performing. Serena had discovered a hidden strength she didn't know she had. And as they stood there, side by side, they realized something important. No matter how different they were, they made a great team.